You, where are you, man? People are waiting.
Sorry, the lunch line was a bit long. I'm here now. Everything is cool. Let's go. You know, Vinny, when we want to learn how to do something well, we search out experts to teach us. Whether we are learning to cook, sew, or play guitar, we know that someone with experience can help us learn more quickly than if we start from scratch. If you learn well and stick with it, eventually you will gain enough of your own skill and understanding to make your own version of Grandma's dumplings, become a hip fashion designer, or even a famous rock star.
You're right, you. Before there were art schools, aspiring artists used to join an experienced artist studio as an apprentice. They would watch the master closely to pick up the tricks of the trade. When art schools began, they were often attached to museums so that students could learn from their teachers, but they could also study actual artworks. Serious art students still spend hours looking at art. In your high school art class, that's a little harder to do, but studying other artists and analyzing their artworks and methods is important to your development as an artist. Not only that, but if you're watching this video, it probably means that your art course requires you to do some investigation and analysis of art as part of your process journal or research workbook. We're going to show you how to approach that investigation in a very effective way.
The reason you are being asked to research and analyze the artwork of other people is so that you can grow as an artist. It is not so that you will copy that style or approach, or make art that looks like someone else's. That is not the point. The point is to learn why and how artists think about art, how they turn their ideas into artworks, and how and why their methods might help inform your process.
First, we need to assume that you have established a topic or theme that you would like to make an artwork about. You've probably started that process in your workbook already. Happily, because artists are curious people, there are many artists who probably have had the same concerns as you and have made art about those interests. If the goal of your research is to make your own art better, it makes sense to choose artists whose work is similar in some way to the direction you want to go with your own artwork. But if you don't yet know many artists, how do you find artists relevant to your project? There are a gazillion artists out there. This is where you've got to be a bit of a detective. You have to do an organized search, otherwise you will end up with a random result that will waste your time.
The first place to start is to ask your very smart art teacher. Discuss with them your ideas and they will be able to suggest some artists to get your research started. They have probably used some presentation or video to introduce a topic for your art project that contained artists that do work related to the topic's theme. Start with those artists. Artists that will be useful for you can relate to your interest either in the way that their art looks or was made, the way they approach the theme, or the life circumstance which you and the artist share.
You can find many interesting and exciting artists on the internet, but you will find a lot more amateurs. Nothing wrong with them, except, unless someone, an art critic or art historian, has written about an artist, you will have a hard time finding verifiable information about them. Even though you may love the artwork of a relatively unknown artist, it would be very difficult to ascertain their art making without some context provided by a professional art writer. Without knowing the backstory of the art in question, it will be hard to get a full understanding of it. Art critics or historians usually don't write about mediocre artists. A good rule of thumb is that if you can't find at least 2 critical or scholarly articles about an artist on the internet, you should find a different artist to research. Although it may seem a bit old-fashioned in the digital age, a good place to look is in art history books.
Vinny, kids don't read books anymore. Who has the time?
Dude, please. Books are good places to find artists to study for a number of reasons. 1, if an artist is in an art history book, it means they are somehow important in the development of art.
Like you and me, right, Vin?
2, art history books are usually already organized by themes or time periods. Finally, the author will have already researched these artists and put information about them into a condensed form, so it will be easier for you to make connections.
But Vinny, I'm all about the internet.
Boys. The internet can be a good place to find information, but you must use good search protocols. A random internet search will cause more harm than good. For example, A Google search for art and social justice returned almost 1 billion results. Clearly, there needs to be a way to decide which of the artists on these sites would be useful to use. Now that you've chosen some artwork by an artist to study, remember, you are analyzing this artwork, not merely speculating about it. When you are writing about the artwork, there is room for your opinion, but it must be an informed opinion. This requires that you learn some background information. You need to find some legitimate research that you can understand about the art. You don't need a PhD level thesis. It's a dead giveaway that you just cut and pasted info you found when there is terminology that you can't define in your writing. There are many sources out there written at the high school level.
First, when you are screening internet results, choose only results that come from art education sites like museums, arts organizations, or universities. These sites are not the only places to get legitimate material, but the information you will find on these sites has been vetted by scholars and experts. There are also many art videos on YouTube, but again, ones made by professional art educators will have information that you can trust and is easily accessible. Why waste your time using unreliable information? Always find at least 2 sources. If you compare this material on at least 2 sites and it more or less aligns, then you know you have usable info. Again, your teacher or librarian can help you find legit and appropriate research. Don't forget those art history books. Also, it's a good idea to retain the bibliographical information from your research in case you need to include it in your workbook or revisit the source later.
So you've got your artist, a few artworks by them that you want to study, and a bit of information. What is an appropriate way to put it all together in a research workbook? If we remember, the point of doing this artist research is to help you understand more about art, the way you present your findings in your workbook should illustrate how you are using that information to inform your process. You're not writing an essay or a biography on the artist in question. Yes, there will be writing involved, but you can and should include visual information that is useful to you in your analysis of the artwork. One very effective way to find the meaning of works of art is to think of the artwork in terms of form, theme, and context. A simplified way to think about this is first you observe the form of the artwork carefully to see how the artist has constructed it and arranged the elements. Secondly, through reading about the artist, you determine the big idea they wanted to express through the artwork. Thirdly, again through your reading, you make some notes about the circumstances, the times, the world situation in which the artist found themselves. This is the context in which the artist made the work and is essential to understanding the artwork fully.
Finally, you need to synthesize what you have learned in order to be really doing an analysis. There are 4 important questions to ask and answer here. How does the form of the work support the artist's theme? How does the theme relate to the context in which the work was made? How was the form affected by the context in which it was made? And perhaps most importantly, how do these artworks inspire, influence, and support your own art making for this project?
There are a few videos on the ISB Art History channel that go more in depth about how to use this form, theme, and context process. There's also one explaining how to use the tool that some students use to make the analysis diagrams in the sample workbook pages.
Artist Frank Stella says that you learn how to paint by looking at other painters. While your art course requires you to do artist research and analysis in your research workbook, it does so for an important reason. To really understand how an artist thinks, why they do what they do, and how they proceed, there is no substitute for looking carefully at the art and finding out their motivations. You may disagree with them, find them overrated or pretentious, and decide they are not your cup of tea. That's the whole point. How you study informs your process is why artist research is so valuable. Keep an eye out for other Learn Smarter videos. We're here to help. See ya.